Now, basically, these minor prophets, you know, this basically, if you can think in your mind, David dies, Solomon comes along, Solomon dies. Well, about this time is where Rehoboam into Hezekiah, these are where these books would take place. So it's good to do that now and just get a big picture of where these things fit into the Bible. Because, of course, you know, a lot of people don't realize this, but like this book Amos, it takes place back in Second Chronicles and Second Kings. So it's just funny though when you're here, somehow Psalms and Proverbs in the middle there, since that's the poetry type of books, you separate them. But no, really, it actually took place right back in here. So, but God puts our Bible in the order of for doctrine. It's not chronological. So He put them this way for a reason. So. All right, let's talk about it. The title means to burden. To burden. There's 9 chapters. You guys got that filled in?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we got most of the top part filled in.
Key verses, you got it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, let's read them. Key verses. Everybody go to Amos chapter 3. Amos chapter 3, and then somebody could read verses 1 and 2.
Hear this word that the Lord hath spoken against you, O children of Israel, against the whole family which I brought up from the land of Egypt, saying, You only have I known of all the families of the earth. Therefore I will punish you for all your iniquity.
Nice and encouraging. Chapter 4, and then somebody read verse 12.
Therefore thus will I do unto thee, O Israel, and because I will do this unto thee, prepare to meet thy God, O Israel.
Yeah. You can read verse 13 too, but these are the key verses. And then you got key chapter down there?
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Yeah, key chapter 9. This is God's evil on them. He tells them He will sift them. You got that blank in there?
No, we don't really have that. We got keyword transgress.
Okay, I'll tell you what then. Under key chapter, chapter 9, write this down. In that chapter, verses 1 through 10, is God's evil upon them. Then you can catch verses 11 through 15. The key word here is sift. You will sift them. Then 11 through 15, you will restore. And, the key word in this book is transgress. You got that down?
yes,
You do?
yes.
So how many times does it appear?
No, we don't have that.
12 times. I'm sorry, I should have looked over your notes. Mine shows your blanks, but I think it took too long one time, so we can go through them then. Who's the author of this book?
Amos.
It is him, and we know that by Amos 1:1. So we better read that out loud.
First is Amos, who was among the herdmen of Tekoa, which he saw concerning Israel in the days of Obadiah, king of Judah, and in the days of Jeroboam, the son of Joash, king of Israel, 2 years before the earthquake.
This is awesome, because you just read something really incredible. It's the days of Uzziah, king of Judah, and the days of Jeroboam. That's how we know it's in Chronicles and Second Kings.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you got a time range on your paper?
Yes.
Okay, you got days of Uzziah and Jeroboam?
Yep.
You got Second Chronicles 26, 1 Kings 14?
Yes.
Awesome.
The first Kings or second Kings?
Second Kings,
Okay.
14. Yeah, so pretty smooth. The theme of this book, you got a theme?
No, we don't have anything else after that.
Okay, I'm glad you said that.
Mhm.
The theme is judgment on attitudes. Judgment on attitudes. here's Israel. Here's what they did. Put this on here. They obey. With the wrong heart. By the way, man, for kids, as parents, I could do a parenting series on the book of Amos, because this is what we shepherd hearts, not bad behavior. It's bad attitudes that produce bad behavior. But let me just tell you right now, this is where most parents never get a real joy in parenting. They never have a beauty like here. Because they'll never experience mom and dad's evil upon their lives. The kids grow up and they don't call their mother blessed. They don't respect their parents. We never see much of this because parents are not willing to sit their children to bring wrath down upon them. And I know here it sounds rough and all that, but man, you got to. And people don't like this. Proverbs uses the word beat. My wife always says, stop doing that. You do it from the pulpit and you're going to get in trouble. I've had DCFS call on me one time, and I became friends with the lady. It's just, this is just the truth. 2 examples. This past week, I had 2 parents. My daughter, Bethany, comes and says, Dad, this couple needs your help. I said, why? And she said, their children. And this particular couple here is a newer couple. And I said, that's fine. But the problem is, the last time I did a parenting class, I don't know if you guys remember the last one I did. That was Tony Evans.
Oh,
that was good. That was a
yeah.
good one.
Yeah.
But when I did the last one, it was cracking me up. All the young, the real young ones that have little kids, all of them were like, well, we feel like they reasoned their way through everything. And I literally get in the car, we drive home, I was like, they're going to lose. Their kids will be hellions. They're going to have a lot of trouble in their life. And as the kids have grown up, and some of the stupid bratty stuff, they will grow out of. Because you get this big and you're a jerk at home or at church. You get to school, you'll get beat up. People won't tolerate that attitude. So they'll do some growing up on their own. But it's crazy. Parents are not willing to do it God's will. And see, God, there's a joy set before him. He sees this. And so, boy, I could tell you some stories about Josephine last year. Some nights we had and some rough stuff. And, I threw her cell phone. It was terrible. And, got something different. I've got on Josie. I've got on her friends. I've been hard on her. Like, she is like, Josie's just like, I can't wait to get out of this house. And she still frequently says she wants to leave when she's 18. But not out of anger or meanness now. I just said, Dad, will you let me? I said, probably not. I'll let you be ready. Your dad will know when you're ready. It's this morning. Hey, Dad, I was thinking in the car, I never really appreciate how much your mom do for me. You take me to school every day. Mom cooks 24/7. You buy me my needs and wants, and throughout the years you've taught me the Bible. You've taught me how to work hard, good work ethic. A lot of kids don't have this like you up with. I just wanted to say thank you. I love you so much. And she said, have a good day. And she said, don't take to heart what your mom said. In fact, she was talking about my diabetes. And she basically told me that, you're going to die, But she said, you do need to do something. And she just turned 14. And it turned a corner. I'm like, and I read it, and I told her, I said, you are a treasure to your dad, man. I'm just telling you, I love you that much. And the day you walk out of our house, I texted her and said, I'll be a mess. When everybody's in bed, I'll sit in the living room and say, I miss that girl. But, one, she took a lot of beatings when she was little. And even as a teenager, and even with, Bethany was not near as bad, but I'm just making a point there. I want to preach this book of Amos because parents are super weak, they're super gracious, and it's just going to be a bad deal. Okay, let's talk about history. history. Historical application. God tells Amos, well, you know what the best part when Shane read Amos 1:1? The words of Amos, who was among the... He was a herdsman, man. I love this about this guy. You know what he was? Basically, he was a shepherd. He herded animals. But God spoke to him, tells him to prophesy judgment on Gentile nations and the captivity of Israel. And we can see this in 1:1, and then chapter 7, verses 14 through 15. So history, God simply tells a farmer, he tells this cattle farmer, I want you to go prophesy judgment. This is a good book, because see, like when you preach this book, this is something like you hang your hat on. You let your people know. All the people that think, oh, you got to go to school, you know, to be a pastor, and oh, we're just blue-collar workers. We just work at Smithfield. Yeah, when God needed a job done, he grabbed a hard-working lady, a hard-working dude, and said, listen, I really want you to prophesy judgment on God's native captivity of Israel. That's what I want you to do. And there's no fear of God, right? There's no fear of God in our society. And let me tell you one reason why. It's this word right here. Once again, we want to preach the love of God. The love. I remember my buddy John came to my house, and his dad punched him right in his face, and he was a little messed up. And I said, "Did you eat Holocaust? Your dad should not punch him in the face." And he goes, "I'm not going to do it." He says, "When my dad gets out or I get out, he says, I'll get killed." There was something healthy. And John was trouble. This kid got kicked out of school and stuff. He's a big Polish kid. Galeski was his last name. And he probably deserved to be punched because he didn't, you know, he was just ignorant. But I like the fact that he feared his dad. I mean, you shouldn't fear your dad being a drunk or slapping for no reason at all, but John was always in trouble. Doctrinally, it's the day of the Lord. So doctrinally, it's the day of the Lord. And this is chapter 5. And guys, mark down here, it's super dark. And by the way, chapter 1, write this down under doctrine too. Chapter 1, it's possible. I do say the word possible. This is the route of the second coming. When Jesus comes back and it's going to touch on Mount Carmel. So that's just something that you might want to just put a note down about that. Not exact sure. I do know this much, it's not Independence, Missouri. That's what they think though, man.
It's the capital of the world. Why did he go back
The
there?
Latter-day Saints believe he's coming back.
I didn't know there
On
was
their
a-
temple,
a
yeah, they're
location.
nuts.
Oh, you ought to see this temple they built. I've heard it's insane.
The one in,
Well, now it's kind of out north Kansas City.
oh, okay.
It's out past the like World of Fun now, kind of underway the airport. They said they opened it for like a week when it first opened. They allowed the public in,
Yeah, I remember.
but they were only allowed to walk in like certain areas, and they put like special carpet down. And then after that week or whatever was up, they took everything out and like they basically like repainted the entire thing.
Yeah, you guys have been to the, I've only drove on the outside of one in Nauvoo.
No, I've never been in Nauvoo.
Oh, you'll go, your school field trip, we'll take one there.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, it's crazy. Inspirationally, this is the spiritual condition of Israel during Amos's ministry. It matches the Laodicean church. It's this church period. Look at Amos chapter 6. look at 6:1. Amos 6:1. Woe to them that are at ease in Zion. I mean, it's the rights of the people. They're just at ease. Life's not good. Israel's in captivity. I mean, this is, so you can read clear down to verse 6, but it just shows you that a little prosperity, and boy, they're done with the Lord. Christ is seen as the husbandman. The husbandman, you actually only find this in one verse, chapter 5, verse 16. Okay, ready? Let's look at the structure outline. Chapters 1 through 2 is God's judgment is proclaimed. God's judgment's proclaimed. 7 times he says, I will send fire. You got a key point there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we do that.
Gentile nations are judged for messing with Israel. And then Judah and Israel are judged for messing with God and his word. It's still true. Genesis 12. God will bless them that bless you and curse them that curse you. You mess with Israel, you're in trouble. And then the last blank there is, they knew. To whom much is given, much is required. So just put down, they knew. It's not like they were ignorant. So God's judgment's proclaimed. Chapters 3 through 6 is an examination of the sin of the people. An examination. Examination of the sin of the people. There's 3 sermons here. The last one calling them to repent. Chapter 4 there. You get that written down, Hope for Parents? Okay, you just might want to mark that down. It's kind of good. I keep talking about parents. So chapter 4, this is Hope for Parents. Basically, God chastises them. God chastised and chastised, yet they still had not returned. So you know what happens? Extreme measures. Just put verse 12. Those are the extreme measures. I care so much for my daughters that I will do this. And last week was another proof. They're going through a college test to get it. She's struggling, crying every night. And I'm trying to be patient and loving. Took her to Starbucks, closed it down, just being real patient with her. And then finally the tears just not stopping. I had to go off on her. And if somebody, the neighbor, you might have heard, I wasn't like mad, like I wasn't ready to punch a window out. My wife even said, why are you being so hard on me? For the last 2 weeks. And so I just let her have it. And she went down, and you're supposed to be the one that's compassionate on me. And I said, quit trying to make me feel bad. Get in your bed and close the door. And she went in her bedroom and cried herself to sleep. Got up the next morning, and I was able to say, hey, you know your dad's trying to help you. And she just, I know you were, but you didn't help. I said, well, help us. The rest of the family was okay. You cried in your room instead of in front of us. So, what she know, what I'm trying to teach her as a girl, she gets out on her own. What's she gonna do? Melt all the time? She's going to learn to suck that up at times. And there's times to cry too. She cries too easy. Chapter 7 through 9 is God's judgments reiterated. God's judgments. Okay, you got a chart it there at the bottom, and, so chapters 1 through 2, 8 burdens for nations. And then, of course, you go, you know, why don't we do this? God's burden for the nations. Chapters 3 through 6, it's 3 sermons for Israel. Then chapters 7 through 9 is 5 visions for the future. Do you want the 8 burdens? If you want them, I'd put these in my Bible if I was you. So here, well, I'll just write them down here. This is judgment. And this is Damascus. Chapters 1, and that's 3 through 5. All these are judgment. This is Gaza. 1, 6 through 8. The next one to be Tyre. Chapter 1, 9, and 10. The next one's going to be Edom. Edomites. 1, 11, and 12. Judgment on Ammon. And that's chapter 1, 13 through 15. The next one is Moab. You'll find it in chapter 2, verses 1 through 3. The next one is Judah, chapter 2, 4, and 5. Then the last one is Israel, God's judgment on Israel. That's chapter 2, 6 through 16. So 8 burdens for nations. This is it. And I'll tell you, you write these down and get them in your Bible. It's just crazy. You'll be somewhere, someplace, especially like Shane and somebody will be reading. You just say, man, I'm struggling. I don't understand the book of Amos. And you can say, guys, well, there's a 3 simple outline, and you can start working them through this and showing them. Now, here, in the middle, 3 sermons for Israel. Let me give you those 3 sermons. I'll just write them here. You can write them below. In chapter 3, 1 through 15. Chapter 4, 1 through 13. And then chapter 5 and verse 1 through 6, 14. And what this is going to be is Israel's present, their past, and their future. Israel's. So those are the 3 sermons we're going to get in chapters 3 through 6. And then chapters 7 through 9, and I'm sorry this ain't on your paper, but normally you just go look this up yourself. We don't normally teach it. I just thought, well, I don't do it. So the 5 visions for the future, chapter 7 through 9. You guys, can you read those pretty good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this is 7 through 9. Let me give you the 5 visions. Chapter 7, 1 through 3. Okay, and this is a V's vision. Vision, locusts. Chapter 7, 4 through 6 is going to be a vision, fire. 7, and then 7 through 9, it's a vision of a plumb line. That's interesting. 7, 10 through 17. Now this is the only one that don't have really vision on it, and that's opposition. The opposition of Amaziah. And then it's going to continue with the vision, chapter 8, 1 through 14. It's going to be the vision of summer fruit. And the last one, the last vision, chapter 9, 1 through 10, vision of striking the doorpost. Doorposts.
Is that opposition to what?
Yes, A-M-A-Z-I-A.
Yep,
Amaziah?
Amaziah, correct. You know what's funny? Is most people will never put the stuff in, your exam's gonna be the same. Put the stuff in the Bible. So, what's funny is, like, on the book of Amos, I'm not holding back. Like, I'm giving everything I know on the book of Amos. And I feel like it's not much. I don't have a great handle on it. I would need to, like, have my Bible or have my notes. But this is just something I've learned. It's super simple, but it's a principle. And the reason you just give this stuff away, because probably 98% of people will never repeat it. It's like teaching expository preaching, the book of Galatians. Who's going to go through that kind of trouble? Who's going to read that book 60 times? I mean, honestly, would we if we weren't in? Probably not. Now, I've been forced to preaching, and if you got, that's what I'm saying. That's why you give this stuff away. Because you just might every once in a while strike one, and every so often somebody will come up and take the jab and run with it. You know. So. That's why I like when I did concrete work, because it reminded me of the ministry. Everybody was afraid of it. Anybody grab a hammer and hit a 2x4, when you did concrete, like, oh, that's hard work, oh no, I can't, we did that once with my uncle, and it got hard, and I was like, it's actually not that difficult, but nobody will take the time and spend with it and figure it out, and it's simple, it's actually simple, but people make it difficult. That's why you can charge more money to do it. Yeah. You can look at the chart. It just compares all the way across. But let me give you the blanks. On 1 through 2 at the very bottom, it's a warning. A warning. And then clear over chapter 7 through 9, judgment is described. There's your blank. And then down a couple, sentence and a pardon. Oh, do you see that last one, 7 through 9? Do you see where it says the way of restoration? Mm-hmm. If you want a verse for that, let's see. 9, 11 through 15. And what comes in the way of restoration? There's 5 promises here. What I love about our God, man. He is dead serious. He said from the beginning, God, this is people who he's going to restore them. He ain't playing. He also told me to whip their tail. So he brings fire and threatens them. Yeah, because he's God. He ain't playing. So that's the book of Amos. Now we got Obadiah. It's a lot shorter. And you know one reason why it's shorter? Our time's going to be shorter because it is the shortest book in the Old Testament. The book of Obadiah. So let me look at your notes real quick.
We got all the blanks.
Yeah.
It's all right. You got some extra tools?
Nope, this is it. But let me hit on a few things. Make sure there's no way. Okay, let me just point out a few things and we can get out of here. It is the shortest book in the Old Testament. Under the key word, notice the key words, Edom, Edomites, and you can go chapter 1. And verse 8, these are the descendants of Esau. And you'll find out as you study this a little bit that under your keynotes there, where it mentions like even Genesis 36:1, what you're going to find out is, well, under keynotes, Genesis 25, that's where Jacob and Esau were born. Genesis 36:1, this is where you get this is where, oh, yeah, this just, this seals the deal here, but basically, what I was trying to find out was, Jacob, you got Jacob and Esau, and it became Edom, because what eventually happens is there becomes some co-inhabiting. They marry women from the Canaanites, which actually, you know, that whole line from Ishmael. That's who I was thinking of, Ishmael. Remember Abraham? He wanted to have a kid, and God promised him Isaac, promised him a kid, and they couldn't wait, so they had Ishmael first. So kind of this Egyptian, and then you got their boy, the kid of promise, Isaac. Well, down the road in the book of Genesis, that's what you have, is you have, you know, Jacob and Esau. Do you remember Jacob was the schemer? He grabbed his heel and came out, and they tricked him for the birthright and all that. Well, eventually Esau ends up sleeping with some of the Ishmaelites. And so that's why you'll find here in Genesis 36:1, where it says, these are the generations of Esau, who is Edom. Clear as the day now. We know it. So basically, you know, if you're looking at doctrine up top there, history, doctrine, inspirational, you know, basically the Edomites are Muslims. If you want to, you know what the Edomites are? They're Arabs. They've always tortured Israel. In this book of the Bible, you can see the theme is the destruction of Edom. God's addressing that he is going to go and whip their tail because you're messing with his people. That's what this book really is about. Hey, check this out. We know that Amos and Obadiah, we already know just from looking at Amos, similar time period, we know that Israel's not where they should be. And so God addresses Edomites and says he's going to destroy them. But Israel ain't doing what's right. It don't matter, because back in Genesis 12, God made a promise to Israel. I'll curse those that curse you. So even in their disobedience and not doing so well, God still comes down and says, oh, I made a promise. And Edom, I will destroy all of you. I just think that's pretty incredible. God's promises are just that true. So don't mess with God's people. It's going to be like our children. You know, when your children, when somebody gets on them excessively, or some, you know, even some here at the churches, they go off on one of my kids. And Josie might have been causing me all kinds of trouble. If somebody goes off my kids, I'm going to get involved in that. I had a dad in my office once, and I had a metal desk, and I had Bethany was just real little, and I had her on the desk, and she was swinging her legs, and bam, hit the desk. I ignored it. Bam! I said, hey, stop kicking your legs, we're talking to this adult man, kind of a counseling situation. We're talking to someone, bam! And all of a sudden, she did it again after the second time, and she did it again, and it was an accident. It wasn't as loud, she just did it, bam! And this other guy goes, hey, is your dad so even though she was wrong, I already warned her, I was like jacked up on this guy who says, hey, I am right here. He goes, yeah, but she wasn't listening to you. I said, I think that was an accident. But you heard me get on her, and I'd spank her hind end if she kept doing it. But it was weird, and I just thought, I don't want to be one of those parents that always defends my kid. But it just reminds me a little bit of God. He loves his people. And if somebody's going to mess with him, he just says, well, I'm going to mess you up then. I loved in our reading in Exodus, where God says that. He says that, I will make enemies of your enemies. That's the word he used. I loved when I read it that day. I thought, you know what? God's got it all covered. So, man, I'm glad that happened.
Hey, back on Amos, I
Yeah.
missed the inspirational.
Oh, this is the spiritual condition of Israel during Amos's ministry. It matches the Laodicean church.
Oh, okay.
I think I just said Laodicean more than anything else. And basically, read chapter 6, 1 through 6, you'll see a lot of it. Because there was even some prosperity with Israel. Isn't it crazy, like Joseph? Everybody's all excited because Joseph in Genesis, at the end of Genesis, he's got Israel in a good spot. Their life being taken care of. And yet, so they move, the family moves, and you know, so like, they had some prosperity. 7 years of family saved up, or 7 years of prosperity, they were able to get to that famine time. So they're like, let's go. So it's a weird kind of story, and then also God's like, okay, you gotta go. You gotta go. So that's inspirational, I kind of use all that. Any other questions or comments on Amos and Obadiah? Every Amish family has an Amos and Obadiah in there. All the Mennonites and beliefs.
If Taylor gets a vote in our child name, we might have an Obadiah.
There you go.
You just gotta throw people off. Oh, what? Oh, wait, yeah.
I think you lose a friend, people like, they weird.
They're not your true friends.
They're weird.